A sad tale, not a funny one. He poorly played at 21, and rarely any money won. A poem by Summer A. Ingmark. My name's Dominic, and this is the All-American Casino Guide. And today, I'm gonna be talking about the 5 most commonly misplayed hands in Blackjack. Hopefully, after you finish this video today, you're gonna know how to avoid these common mistakes, and you'll be able to cash in big next time you're at the table. So the first commonly misplayed hand I want to talk about is a pair of 9s versus a 9. When you get a pair of 9s and the dealer also shows a 9, instinct tells you that you want to stand on your hard 18. But the truth is that probabilistically speaking, you have a better chance of winning at a game of blackjack if you split your 9s rather than stand. Let me tell you exactly why. With a hard 18 pitted against a 9, your chances of winning are around 8 out of 20. But set against those same odds where you split your 9s, your odds of winning the hand go up to 9.5 over 20, essentially 48% over 40%. So statistically speaking, it's in your best interest to split those 9s. So let's take a look at what happens when I split these 18s. All right, so I split them and I go ahead and get a 19, pretty good. And a 15, I'm gonna go ahead and hit that, take my chances. Oh my gosh, there's a 21. I did not stack the deck, I swear to God. And what did the dealer get? The dealer got 13. Of course, they take a hit on that. Okay, lucky here, 23. They bust, you win both hands. The next most commonly misplayed hand I wanna talk about is where you're dealt a hard 12 and the dealer is showing a 3. In a situation where you have 4 stacked decks and it's standard rules, you might be asking yourself, what do I do in this particular situation? Well, the answer is really simple. You should take a hit. But it's important to say that you could potentially bust your hand if you get a 10 or a face card, but only take 1 card, because anything outside of that 1 card will take you outside the realm of the acceptable range of numbers that you should be taking hits on. So even if it's like a 2, 16, probably not a great idea to take a hit on that. So here we have a 12, as I said, so I'm gonna take a hit. And I stupidly get a 21, proving my point nonetheless. Okay, let's see if we at least get a push with the dealer here. 12, 22, okay, there you go. You might be asking yourself, with a hard 12, there is a possibility that I could bust. So why even take a hit at all? Well, the truth is mathematically, you are 3.5% more likely to lose the hand if you decide to stay on that hard 12. It's also worth noting that with this strategy, you have about a 5% chance of pushing. But it's important to understand that sometimes taking a certain action is based on the mathematical probability of you not losing money. And so a push is not something that you really should consider a loss, because in fact, all your money is returned to you, and it's essentially like that particular hand never happened. If there's any takeaway from this though, it's that you shouldn't be afraid to take an action that you know is statistically in your favor. And you certainly should not violate basic blackjack strategy unless you have a firm grasp on the true count and you know that that count is heavily in your favor. The next most commonly misplayed hand I'd like to talk about is situations where you have a hard 16 and the dealer is showing a 10. So in those kinds of situations, I recommend that you follow this little handy dandy rule of thumb that I've come up with. Now, if you have 3 cards to form your hard 16, so in this case 8, 3, and 5, then my recommendation is to stand on that hand. But in situations where you have a 2-card hard 16, for example 7 and 9, my recommendation is to take a hit. It's going to be, the reason for that is based primarily in the fact that there's already more cards on the table. So it's a mildly statistical advantage for you to not take the hit in situations where you already have 3 cards forming your hard 16. If someone really wants me to get into the math of that and explain my thinking, make sure to leave a comment down below, and I might just do a video dedicated to just explaining the math on hard 16 versus 10. But other than that, just take my word for it, please. The next misplayed hand I'd like to talk about is situations where you're dealt a soft 18, so an ace and a 7, and the dealer is showing a 9, a 10, or an ace. Okay, so in this particular situation, your best bet is to just take a hit and try to improve your hand. I know normally you would think an 18 is a good hand to stand on, but it's been mathematically analyzed and you're going to have your best odds taking that hit. Your expected loss on a 18, if you stand, is about 18 cents on a $1 bet. If you take the hit, your expected loss drops to just 10 cents. And if you, for some reason, decide to take a hit or a double, if you try to double down on a soft 18, your expected losses are somewhere around 28 cents. So generally speaking, just follow this simple rule of thumb whenever you find yourself with a soft 18 versus the dealer's upturned 9. The last misplayed hand I want to talk about is a situation where you're dealt a pair of 8s and the dealer has an upturned 10. In this particular situation, unfortunately, you're going to have to play defensively. You can't really play aggressively in this situation because of that upturned card. Now, the best thing for you to do to defend your money and potentially mitigate your losses is to split this hand, and I'll explain why. If you sit on a pair of 8s, effectively a 16, you're gambling on the dealer busting, which is only going to happen about 21% of the time. And your potential loss on standing on 16 or even taking a hit is somewhere around 53.5%. Why, if you decide to split your hands, where you'll be given another card on each of those 8s, your potential loss on this hand is only around 47.5%. So it's a slightly better statistical advantage for you to split the hand. And then in this situation, you just happen to have won anyway. So guys, that concludes my countdown of the top 5 most misplayed hands in blackjack. I really hope that you learned something and that next time you go to the table, you'll be able to rake it in big. It's also important for me to mention that all the strategies we talked about today are based in a situation where you have a true 0 on the count, or you just simply don't know what the count is. It's just good, basic blackjack strategy that you can take with you everywhere you go. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed this. Click that like button as always. Ring-a-ring-ding that notification bell. Pump that big red subscribe button and join our loyal posse. Don't be a dummy, make some money right here on the All-American Casino Guide. My name's Dominic, wishing you luck and reminding you as always, play responsibly.